What would happen if every child spent 12 years of their education surrounded only by people who looked exactly like them, thought exactly like them, and shared every dimension of their background and experience? Well, it is a question worth serious discussion because the answer has enormous consequences for the kind of adults we are sending into the world. As K-12 public school administrators and central office staff, you are not simply managing enrollment numbers or balancing classroom ratios. You are curating one of the most formative experiences a child will ever have, and one of the most enduring gifts a traditional public school offers is this: the daily lived practice of learning alongside people who are different. This is reason number 5 in our series on why traditional public schools are an excellent choice for children and families. Now, if we are honest, it is one of the reasons that deserves far more celebration than it typically receives. I want to share a story from my earlier writing, one about what it means to build an educational ecosystem that works because of its diversity, not despite it. In a blog post I wrote about understanding the roles of school district stakeholders, I used the lens of a science teacher because that is part of my own story to describe public education as an ecosystem. You see, when I taught science, I walked students through what happens when a single component of an ecosystem goes missing. The balance collapses. The whole suffers. What thrives is not the most homogeneous ecosystem, but the most richly diverse one, the one where each species, each organism, each living participant plays a role no other can replicate. Well, I have never stopped thinking about public schools through that lens. Now, let me apply that same truth directly to what happens inside a public school classroom. When you seat students from different zip codes, faith traditions, languages, family structures, and life experiences at the same table, and when you leave that room with intention, something extraordinary happens. Students do not just learn the curriculum, they learn from one another. And that learning may be the most career-ready, civically essential, deeply human preparation we can offer. Here is where I want to be transparent with you, because the people who need to hear this most are often the ones leading the systems. You see, far too many administrators treat classroom diversity as a logistical challenge, something to navigate, balance, or carefully manage so it does not create friction. Professional development sessions are titled Managing Diverse Classrooms. Policies are written to accommodate differences rather than to leverage them. And the well-intentioned leader who frames diversity as a problem to be solved has already communicated to every student, teacher, and family in that building, that difference is something to be tolerated, not treasured. That framing is not only wrong, it is also costly. When we position diversity as a burden, we rob students of one of the most powerful learning tools available to them. We signal to children from underrepresented backgrounds that their presence requires management rather than celebration. And we quietly undermine the very civic responsibilities and readiness and global competency that employers, universities, and communities demand of our graduates. So the error is not in the what, because most leaders genuinely believe in the value of diverse communities. The error is in the how, in the unconscious posture that treats difference as a deviation from a norm rather than as the very fabric of excellence. So let's talk about how research should reframe everything. You see, the National Education Association affirms that diverse learning environments better prepare students for civic life and the global workforce. This is not a platitude. It is a finding with real implications for how we design schools, assign teachers, structure conversations, and celebrate student identity. Dr. Patricia Guerin's landmark research at the University of Michigan demonstrated that students who experience diverse educational environments show greater cognitive complexity, stronger critical thinking, and deeper civic engagement than their peers in more homogeneous settings. You see, when students are regularly asked to grapple with perspectives unlike their own, their brains are doing some of the most rigorous intellectual work available to them. And the workforce agrees. A McKinsey & Company report found that companies in the top quartile for ethnic and cultural diversity are significantly more likely to outperform their peers in profitability. So the children sitting in diverse public school classrooms today are being prepared, whether we name it explicitly or not, for careers in organizations that are learning the same lessons business researchers have been documenting for decades. Diversity is not charity. It is a competitive advantage. So the question is whether our schools are leading with that truth or quietly apologizing for it. The shift I'm asking you to consider is not a curriculum change or a policy revision. It is a posture shift, a fundamental reorientation in how you and your leadership team speak about diversity in your schools. When a principal stands before her staff and says, "Our diverse student population is one of our greatest instructional assets," she is not just making a feel-good statement. She is setting the conditions for teachers to design learning experiences that invite every voice into the conversation. She is signaling to students from every background that they belong, not as guests in someone else's school, but as essential contributors to a community that would be less without them. Nelson Mandela captured this beautifully when he said, "If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart." Diverse classrooms, led well, learn to speak to one another's hearts across cultural, linguistic, and experiential differences in ways that no uniform, homogeneous classroom can replicate. That is not soft. That is the most rigorous preparation for real life that public education can offer. So, what does this look like in practice for the administrators viewing or listening to me? First, it looks like professional learning for teachers that goes beyond sensitivity training to asset-based pedagogy. The genuine instructional skill of drawing on the diverse knowledge, experiences, and perspectives students bring as content for learning. Next, it looks like a celebration that is integrated year-round, not confined to a heritage month. Followed by, it looks like disaggregating data, not to shame subgroups, but to ensure that every child's trajectory is actively supporting. It looks like central office leaders who walk into schools and ask not just, "What are your test scores?" but whose voices are leading this community. It looks like the kind of leadership Brené Brown describes when she writes, "Connection is why we are here. It is what gives purpose and meaning to our lives." You see, when we lead our diverse public schools with the intention of building genuine connection across difference, across distance, across all the lines that could divide, we give students something no amount of standardized curriculum can provide: the lived experience of belonging to something larger than themselves. So here is what I want every administrator viewing or listening to me to hold on to. The diverse learning community you lead is not a problem waiting to be solved. It is an answer waiting to be activated. The research is clear. The workforce data is clear. The civic imperative is clear. What remains is for us, those of us who sit in the leadership chair, to lead with the conviction that the richness of our student population is among the most powerful assets we steward. Traditional public schools, by their very design, open their doors to every child in the community. That is not an accident of policy. That is a promise. And when we lead that promise with purpose, we give children something they will carry long after the last bell rings: the confidence to sit across from anyone, anywhere in the world, and build something together. So, now what? Well, I want you to take a moment this week, before the next staff meeting, before the next board presentation, before the next strategic planning session, and ask yourself honestly, how am I talking about the diversity in my school? Are you positioning it as one of your school's most powerful teaching tools? Are your teachers equipped to leverage it? Are your students experiencing their differences as a source of learning and strength? Or are they navigating a culture that merely tolerates what it does not yet know how to celebrate? You have the platform, the position, and the power to shift that narrative. And when you do, you will not just be building a better school. You will be building a better world, one classroom at a time.